There are a lot of things I'm ashamed of from my youth. I used to be someone who thought Tribblies looked good. I was the least photogenic person around. I fancied having a rap career at one point, and yes, the raps I wrote were bottom tier garbage. I was an incel, like a bad one. Like the women only date assholes one, the I'm such a nice guy one, the you should break up with your boyfriend cause I can do better type of incel. I've outgrown all of these, thankfully, although I would probably still wear a Tribbley if I had a nice blazer and dress pants to go with it, to be honest. I think the shape of my face works well with one. But perhaps the phase of my life that I'm the most ashamed of has got to be the fact that from 2012 to 2015 or so, I was an anti-SJW. Thankfully, not like deep into that mindset. I wasn't a far-right weirdo or anything, but I definitely held views that were stupid and unfounded. A lot of my time spent as one was basically using emotional reasoning to debate reality and pure logic. In other words, when I tell you that I know how the anti-woke crowd thinks, I know how they think on an intimate level. I know all of the logical fallacies, ignorances, appeals to emotion on a deep level. I understand exactly how the arguments are structured, what makes them so bad, and on top of that, what harm they cause. Before we get into the arguments, however, there's a few things we have to cover. The first thing being the correlation between anti-SJW and anti-woke. You see, both of these stances are what are called contrarian ideologies. They don't actually stand for anything. They only exist to push back against progressiveness in any form. Fair warning, I'm about to get very deep into political theory, as it's the only way I can lay out how to logically void this stance is to take, so strap in, viewer. Within politics, there are several categories of ideologies and political stances. Most people are familiar with the broad overarching political compass, which is shit at telling you about political leanings, by the way, and boils incredibly nuanced subjects into their lowest common denominators. For the purposes of today's video, we will be focusing on the category of social movement. Typically, societal movement has three categories: traditionalists/regressives, which aims to move progress backwards to how things were in older times; conservatives, who aim to keep things the same as they are now; and progressives, who aim to move society forward into what they perceive to be better times. Of the three, progressives are the most left-leaning, and historically, conservatives and regressives have been on the wrong side of history. This isn't up for debate. By their definition, it was conservatives and regressives who hated people like John F. Kennedy, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, and any other champion for human rights. These types like to pretend to respect whenever they want to downplay the plights and struggles of minorities in the modern day, when in reality, had these people lived in the same times as the people that I just mentioned, they would have the same snide vitriol for them as they do for any modern day political activist and human rights advocate. Yes, all anti-woke weirdos would have hated MLK Jr. and his messages, and if you think they wouldn't, then you understand nothing about either MLK Jr. or the anti-woke mindset, probably both. The reason I bring this up is because it's important to understand that anytime any kind of ideology crops up that is anti-whatever minorities are fighting for currently, it has always been historically wrong, and the progressives' way of thinking has always created a better society, and history does nothing but agrees with this sentiment. So whether it be the anti-SJWs of 2012 or the anti-woke weirdos of today, in the future, people will look back and be like, wait, there were actually people who believed that diversity and equality was a bad thing, and the same way that the sane person who looks back on the 60s and goes, wait, they thought allowing black people to drink from the same water fountains and attend the same schools as white people was a bad thing. Secondly, we need to understand exactly why this anti-progressive mindset is logically void to begin with before we even attempt to jump into the crap arguments of go woke, go broke. When you set yourself up to be anti-anything, what you are essentially doing is saying that you don't have any opinions on the subject to begin with outside of not that. This is inherently what the definition means, so then your argumentative points become whatever that stands for, I am automatically against. Because of this, when asked for their actual opinions on issues relating to that subject, they will typically have no talking points outside of that shouldn't exist because I don't like it. And therein lies the core problem. Due to this reasoning, oftentimes trying to find reasons why something shouldn't exist is not based in reality, only their own personal emotional feelings. And these types loathe thinking that their talking points come from pure emotional stances with no basis in logic or reality. For example, the anti-woke plague that drives YouTube's algorithms oftentimes likes to use something called the immersion breaker argument, which claims that the historical inaccuracies within a video game break their immersion, and therefore a black samurai, who actually existed and was a real person by the way, breaks their immersion in a game where the series, which has the historical accuracy of a kindergartner's drawing of the legend of the Spartans. This argument makes no sense because, like I just said, historical inaccuracy was fine to these people when it was a bunch of straight white dudes running around through through Renaissance Italy fighting over magical artifacts and trading blows with the fucking Pope. But when a black dude, who was real, I will remind you, shows up all of a sudden, they want to get all pearl clutchy screaming about their precious immersion. See, their argument only works if you say that you've never liked the Assassin's Creed series for its lack of historical accuracy. But if that's the case, then why the fuck would you care that the series now has a black dude in it? You weren't going to play the game anyway. There are plenty more of these bad anti-woke arguments and talking points, but I'll have an entire video dedicated to just those arguments, so I'll leave you with that example and move on to the main one I wanted to cover in this video, the myth of go woke, go broke. A phrase often said by people who do not live in reality. The term implies that if a company makes a game, movie, TV show, fucking commercial that has more than what they deem to be the proper amount of diversity, and what they deem to be the proper amount of diversity vastly differs depending on how much they can get off to that said diversity, then the property is destined to fail. In the video game world, the failure of both the games Concord and Dustborn are largely attributed by this crowd to the fact that these games were incredibly diverse. I mean, of course they both failed. They have fat people, and black people, and women, and even fat black women. Oh my But no, the reality of the failure of these games is that they were both just awful fucking games. Concord had nothing new to offer the world, was a game that, despite being PvP only, cost $40 fucking with a $60 pre-order deluxe bundle, and nobody is going to pay for a PvP only game in 2024. It was a game that was very obviously stuck in 2016 back when it entered development, an utterly bland team-based hero shooter that had a whole host of issues and none of them had to do with its diversity. A similar story goes for Dustborn. It wasn't its diverse cast that let it down, it was the fact that the game was shit. A cast of characters with insufferable personalities, an impenetrable storyline, and boring as fuck uninteresting combat that made the game feel lifeless and devoid of anything tangible. But Kaiser, I hear the anti-woke crowd scream, or as they will more likely call me, fat ass fat. You see the problem? When companies are focused on diversity, the game suffers for it. The problem with that is that there's absolutely zero basis for this claim. There's no evidence that these games were shit because they were trying to meet some sort of diversity quota. The games just happened to be shit. Plenty of games turned out to be shit, despite not looking for diversity, and yet for some reason you weirdos attribute diversity as the reason shit games happen to be made. It's like the immersion argument earlier. The only time you seem to blame the characters as a reason for a game being shit is when it's minorities. No one ever says, well, you see, they were too focused on having a cast of straight white men, so that's why the game failed as a game, because that's a stupid talking point. Secondly, plenty of games that meet what you idiots call woke have been massive successes. Every single character in Baldur's Gate 3 is pansexual, and you can play as whatever race, gender, ethnicity, and sexuality you want. The second most successful battle royale of all time, Apex Legends, has a cast that is vast majority LGBT, women and non-whites. Overwatch, the most successful hero shooter of all time, has a massively diverse cast as well. Miles Morales is America's favorite Spider-Man despite being Afro-Latino. Deadlock, an insanely popular new IP from Valve, has black men, black women, a mask-presenting non-binary character, and more. In fact, taking a look at most modern games, you'll find many successful ones that have plenty of diversity within them. We've been eating good for representation, and that's a good thing. Representation is not only good for the mental health of those being represented, it's also good for society as a whole. The more a diverse group of people are normalized, the less likely it is that society will be cruel and harsh to those people. When everyone is represented fairly, then a more tolerant, caring, and loving world can be slowly built, and slow progress is still progress. And that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think down below. And as always, a great big special thank you to my channel members listed on screen now. You want to find out how to become a channel member today, get awesome perks like seeing videos early, merch discount codes, and more, then please click that join button down below. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in the next one. Need more Kaiser in your life? Well, I've got you covered. Check out my second channel, The Kaiser Extras, where I upload full gameplays, stream compilations, me reacting to your Dead by Daylight clips, and more. We also upload a daily short with all the greatest clips from stream. We'll see you over there. Link is in the description.